guys, I've got a really wicked sounding melodic death metal style riff that I want you to learn, but it's more about the methods and some strategies, some riff writing strategies that I'm going to share with you as we learn this riff. So this is kind of like, in my opinion, kind of like Amon Amarth meets Arch Enemy, and maybe even a little of Cradle of Filth in there. So really cool stuff like melodic death metal, maybe venturing into black metal. But the strategies, I mean, this can carry over, it does carry over into thrash metal and really a lot of different subgenres of metal. Again, just a really good strategy and method to practice just to get better overall with your metal rhythm playing. So we're going to get right into this real quick. Patreon supporters, you guys have the tabs and the backing tracks. Don't forget to download those and hang around. After the lesson, we are going to have our usual guitar chat. Let's start by playing the riff just out in the open, no backing tracks. So this is what we're learning, then we'll break it down. Alright, so we are steady pedaling. I mean, this is like doing cardio here with your pick, right? Because we're just steady back and forth alternate picking. What I love about this technique, and I really encourage you to practice this on a regular basis, we'll talk more about that in our guitar chat, so hang around for that. What I love about this, though, is that it gets your hands in sync with one another because you're steady having to alternate pick the one note. And even though we're not doing a whole lot of movement here, there's still this synchronization that happens between the two hands. And this is just going to make you better, I believe. Okay, so we're starting out with the open string. And I got a little trick I want to show you here about alternate picking, this pedaling that we're doing, or some call it tremolo picking, whatever you want to call it, right? And there's a slight little palm mute. I want to show you that as we start out with that open string, okay? And standard tuning here, you guys know that, but for those of you who don't, well, we're in standard tuning. We're on that E string. One thing you'll notice, I'm not just alternate picking the open string and that's it. I'm doing a little, just a slight little palm mute, and I'll show you the difference. Listen to the difference here. What this does, okay, this helps clean up in between each alternate pick. It's almost like having an OD in front of the high gain amp. It just tightens things up a little bit. So it's a really cool trick, right? What I'm doing, I'm not doing a full-on palm mute here. I'm just lightly touching the string with my palm, just barely. And another little tactic I like to use is I'm not even doing that the entire time. I'm sort of moving that back and forth. This is a very graceful technique, guys, okay, even though we're playing metal here. It's a very graceful technique, and it's something that just over time, you'll just build up that intuition as to when to move that back and forth to tighten those notes up, okay? So that's, if you get nothing out of this lesson, take that away and just practice that. It's a really good tactic to use. So now let's go through the rest of this. Let's go through the actual notes here. We'll break it down in two parts. Here's part one. Ended on that real like wicked sounding note there. So we are going open string, and guys, I don't know, I should know this, but I don't know how many times I'm going back and forth. Just let your ears do the work for you. Trust your ears, and as you start to play this and mimic what I'm doing here, just trust your ears to know when to go to that note, okay? I hope that makes sense. I'm really big on that, guys. You know, sometimes we want to see the tabs for everything, and again, my Patreon supporters, you guys have the tabs, but I really challenge you to not really worry about the tabs, not really worry about how many times and try to get it exact. Trust your ears as you go into this. They will guide you, okay? So here we go. We're going from open string, open E, then we're going to go down to the 7th string and the 8th string, okay? Next, we're going to hop over to the A string and finish out that first part of the riff, just like this. Well, I continue the alternate picking on the next two notes on the A string that we're going to play, which those notes are going to be frets 10 and 9. Then I'm going to do this little hammer on pull off to do this part right here. How wicked does that sound? Another little tactic here I like to use, especially with certain styles of metal, when you want it to sound just a little bit more wicked or evil, right? You throw in those notes that I call them notes that don't seem to fit, okay? You throw those in there, and there's some fancy theory terms, and if you guys know that, hey, drop that in the comments. I'd love to know what that is. I should call my friend and business partner Ken Candelas. You know, we own Metal Mastermind together. He's a big theory buff. He would know what to call that. Anyway, I like to throw that. This goes back to trusting your ears. I like to throw these sort of things in, and I tell you this because I want you guys to focus on writing your own riffs. I want you to take what I'm showing you here, and I want you to expand on it, right? You may come up with something a lot cooler than what I just played. It's cooler because you wrote it, right? So I want you to always be thinking of that. All right, let's go through the last part of this riff here. I'll play it all the way through. All right, so we start out the same, open string, okay, 7, 8. Then we hop over to the A string again, pretty much doing the same thing almost, but just different notes. Same strategy, same tactic, same techniques, methods, right? But just applying those to different notes. Another riff writing tactic that I love to use. This makes things a little bit easier, okay? We didn't play the same thing twice, but we did use the same strategy. All we did was just change the notes up a little bit. So this is a really great songwriting tactic when you're writing riffs and you're like, you know, I can't think of what to write next. Nothing's coming up. Well, use the same cadence, if you will, the same strategy. If you did some alternate picking with those two notes and did a hammer on pull off, well, do that same thing, just different notes. Really cool strategy to use, and it just changes everything up, right? So what we're doing here, let me play that one more time. Okay, now we didn't quite do the exact same thing. I know I just talked about that. We did, you know, a little bit different. We didn't do like a big time hammer on pull off, but what we're doing is we're going from 10 to 12, okay? Then we're going 9, 10. Let's talk through this real quick. What if I wanted to, and we're getting into songwriting and riff writing, if I wanted to do this, now I could use that same strategy but change up the notes a little bit. So I'll kind of do what we did the second time around, but I'll apply the strategy that we just did, okay? So here's what it'll sound like. See what I did there? So this was the riff on the A string here the first time around. Alternate pick two notes, right? Giving it that death metal-y style there. But then we did a hammer on pull off onto another note. Once again, first time around. That's what I was talking about earlier when I mentioned, hey, if you're in a stump on your writing, we'll just apply the same strategy just with different notes, okay? And I kind of went off the beaten path here, but for a good reason, because that's not actually the riff, but hey, we made it one anyway, and this is what I'm talking about, guys. take what I'm showing you, apply it, right? But then start running with it. Like start adding more notes, start adding different notes, start doing some different things with it, and just see what comes out. There's nothing wrong that's going to come out. Only a beautiful thing that you wrote. That's what's going to come out. Let's go through the entire riff one more time, then we'll enter into the guitar chat. Now it's time for our usual guitar chat, but real quick guys, if you do not have my free metal riffs and licks practice guide, that has literally helped thousands of metal guitar players just like yourself. So if you don't have that yet, there's a link in the description of this video. If you already have that guide, then hey, check out my guitar courses. I've got Metal Riff Master out there. It's over 80 metal riffs. You're learning multiple different techniques and really just honing in on that skill. If you're new at playing metal guitar, then I've got a course called Metal Guitar Apprentice that goes over the basics of playing metal guitar. It's also a great course if you've been away from it for a while and you just need to revisit those fundamentals. All that good stuff is in the description of this video here. So I talked about using these techniques, right? This alternate picking technique, which again, guys, this technique is gold. You know, a lot of times we play our downstrokes and we get really good at those, we get really fast at those. But I know a lot of you, and I had this issue too, when you switch over to alternate picking, you're like, oh, it just seems kind of foreign. Now, some of you are great at it, and you can attest that learning the alternate picking, really getting those down, especially with your metal rhythms, it's just a great strategy, man. It just it boosts your overall playing, if that makes sense. It also helps with the synchronization, as I mentioned, with both hands, because you're alternate picking pretty fast, and then you're having to sync that up, those really fast picks, with those notes that you're playing with your right hand or your fretboard hand. Let me take a sip of this, guys. I hope this isn't cold. Hold on. Not cold yet. I want to drink it fast because my wife, she bought this mushroom stuff, this powder stuff we put in there. A lot of vitamins and antioxidants, all that good stuff. Anyway, back to the alternate picking. So I just think it's a great strategy to learn and to consistently get better at, right? Just play that. You know, I don't know if you guys noticed, but if you don't play a certain technique for a while, if you neglect certain techniques on guitar, you certainly don't get better at them. And if you're like me, man, you get rusty. If I don't practice certain techniques, sweep picking is one of those. That's just not one of my strong suits, right? So if I don't practice that on a regular basis, man, I get really bad at it really fast. It's like I'm just starting out again. But alternate picking, though, with your metal rhythms, you know, rhythms are the culprit of everything, and not just in metal music, not just in rock music, but music in general. That rhythm, that is the culprit. Look, you can have songs without guitar solos. I mean, we prefer to have guitar solos, but you can still have songs without them. Well, you can't have songs just with the guitar solo. I mean, you could, right? Not saying you can't, but it's probably not going to be as captivating. That rhythm, you still have to have that rhythm to hold things together, right? So I think it's really important to spend most of your time on your rhythm playing. I'm not saying don't play leads. Hey, I probably spend most of my time on my leads, but I've been playing guitar since 1989, guys. So it's been a long time. But if you're if you're starting out, or even if you're in that intermediate level, I would still spend more times on rhythms, because if you can get up there on stage and whip out a solo and sweep pick and all that, hey, that's great. But if you can't play the rhythms, well, it's not good. This technique, I truly believe the alternate picking technique, don't stop playing downstrokes, but when you filter these alternate picking methods in, I think it's going to make you better. And you don't even have to apply it to the death metal style of playing. It's not just reserved for melodic death metal or black metal or whatever, right? It's a technique, it's a method. It doesn't really have to be tied to a subgenre or genre or any of that. Listen, if you go back and listen to the surf rock, right, from like what, the 50s and 60s, there's a lot of alternate picking going on there. So again, it's the technique, it's the method. Also, I want to bring up the point that we talked about expanding on this riff. I mean, we even did that, right? I gave you an example of where, what if you just like did that second part of the riff, using the same strategy that you used for the first part of it, but just applying that strategy to different notes to come up with something different that breaks up the song a little bit. And it wasn't even part of the core riff that we learned today, right? So this is the type of thinking that I want you guys to go for as you're playing guitar. Expand. You're never gonna play anything wrong. Okay, it might sound wrong to you, but that wrong to you is gonna lead to something that sounds right to you. Okay, that's how we grow. So I really want to encourage you to take what I'm sharing with you, expand on it like crazy, run with it. You're gonna come up with something at the end that sounds completely different, and more importantly, it's going to be your sound, going to be your style. So just want to encourage you guys to always be continuously developing your own sound and style. Guys, if this video helped you, please give it a thumbs up. Please smash the like button. And hey, subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed yet. I'm constantly putting out cool stuff for you guys. By the way, the tone you heard in this video is the Black Star Amped 3. You can watch my demo video. I'll throw it up there. It's up there somewhere. So do check that out. Guys, until the next video, as always, keep it metal.